Good evening, folks. John Graham coming to you again from the church out here in Marion, New York. Another snowy day in upstate New York, just south of Lake Ontario. So tonight's video is going to talk a little bit about the club face and how mistakes that I make in the shape of the face show up three-dimensionally. I'm going to try to use this lie angle tool here to show you. If I get the face pointed right at the target where it looks like, or left, or if I lower the shaft or raise the shaft, how that changes where the face is actually pointed. So I've got a 7-iron here, got my lie angle tool, and you can see from the camera that if I take my stance and I line up the bottom edge of the club face square to this target line, I get my tool right over the target line, and there I get the club face pointed directly at the target. Now if I come into the ball and I get the club face pointed a little bit to the right, clearly you can see now that that white line on there points off to the right. If I rotate the shaft, clearly that points higher and to the right. Or if I'm coming in the other way, that's obviously lower and to the left. And it's pretty dramatic. Obviously, the less loft that I have, any rotation shows up in the direction much quicker. Like if I had a very low lofted club and I start to rotate it, the amount of severity of the direction change is pretty quick. If I had a sand wedge or something much more lofted, when I rotate the shaft, I don't get as much movement in the direction of the club face as I point it. So it's really critical, and one of the things that makes the harder clubs or longer clubs more difficult to hit straight is any little mistake shows up in the direction much more severely. Another thing that I have to account for is the lie angle of the club. That's the angle from the shaft to the bottom edge. For each golfer, it can be different, and if I start to get either a club that's not fit correctly, or I start to raise the handle, you can see now that causes the face to point off to the right. I'm trying to keep the bottom edge of this club face square to this target line, and you can clearly see that face points off to the right. And then obviously if I lower the shaft, you can see the club face starts to point to the left. This should help explain why it's so important to get your lie angles fit correctly, so that when the club face and the ball strike, granted there's probably going to be some kind of shaft droop or bending that happens depending on how fast it's going, and we want to account for that so that when I strike it, the club face is level to the ground at that time. Because if it's not, I may have a club face that appears square to the target, but because my lie angle is wrong, the actual face is pointed somewhere else. And without this tool, I think that's pretty hard to see. And I think it makes it very clear that if I get that part wrong, I get a directional problem pretty quick. It'll also kind of help explain if you have a swing problem, where you come through and you stand up maybe and you get the shaft a little high. That's going to tend to cause the face to point out to the right also. Fairly common problem, but that will kind of show you what it does to the face. If I stand up and raise the shaft, there goes the face pointed off to the right. This should also help you be able to visualize a side hill lie. If I have a ball above my feet, so let's say this would be my normal distance from the target, and now I have a ball that's above above this target line. I've got to kind of back up now to kind of line these two up, and there you go, I get a face pointed to the left. The reason it's pointed to the left is because I've lowered the shaft, and relative to the club face, now the club face points much more left. Opposite is true as if I have a side hill lie with the ball below my feet. I'm going to get closer to where the ball is to make up for the fact that it's below my feet, and I can't do that here unless I stand on something. But you can see by getting closer to it, I actually point the face off to the right. You know, it's one of the things that helps to encourage a right start, right movement shot when I have the ball below my feet, and obviously ball above my feet, you know, a left starting, left curving motion. And the more loft the club has, the more left it faces. If I'm swinging above my feet, you know, and the more the club loft, the more I'm swinging below my feet, the more to the right it's going to point. So I have to adjust for that based on how much above or below my feet the ball is and what club I have. Because even if I'm doing like little chips and pitches, you know, here I've got a 7-iron, and I'm going to just, you know, choke down and, you know, give this thing a little pitch. I'm going to try and get this nice and square to the target. You can see, my face is actually pointing to the right. I can tell you from looking at the leading edge of this club, that part is square to this target. But you can see that the club face is not. And I have to account for that. You know, either I have to, you know, maybe set up a little open, something that'll help to change that actual direction the face is pointed in. Again, more severe even with a pitch and wedge, sand wedge. Those are more pointed to the right as I get closer to the ball. So I hope this little video kind of gives you an idea as to how important the face is and how quickly it changes depending on, you know, where my face is pointed and where the shaft is. They're all critical pieces to get a handle on. You know, this little short one here, I see this one really common where people will line that leading edge right up with the target and the ball starts to the right and they don't know why. I hope now you can see why. You know, it's also going to give you an idea of how difficult it is to get your lie angles correct with your sand wedges, because those clubs are used for so many different speeds of shots and different distances away from the setups of those shots. You know, if I've got my sand wedge out and my normal distance away, you know, that's going to equal some face angle shape. You know, now I take my little chip shot, that's going to equal a different face angle shape because I've raised the handle because I got closer to the ball. I've got to account for all that stuff in my practice and in my aim and in my setup to account for those little changes. So like I said, once again, I hope this gives you some food for thought on the shape of the club face, you know, why the uphill or the side hill ball above my feet shots go left, start left, curve left, and the ball below my feet, you know, side hill, downhill, start right and go right. It's because the loft on the club has changed where the actual face is pointed. So I hope this helps, and if you have any questions or comments, you can stop by my website at johngrahamgolf.com, or you can catch me out on Twitter. My Twitter handle is johngrahamgolf. You'll find me there more often than not. And you know, you can leave this in the comment section of the YouTube here at the bottom. And I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.